Why are bone marrow transplants so helpful in diseases like leukemia and lymphoma?
There's two main reasons that a unrelated transplant, a bone marrow transplant, works. First of all, it replaces the diseased cells with healthy cells from the donor. Secondly, those new healthy cells that come from the donor have a seek and destroy mission when they get into that person's body, and they'll actually seek out and kill any remaining leukemia cells that are left.
For people who are sick with these diseases and other disorders, how critical are bone marrow transplants for these individuals?
You know, for some people, it is the only hope. They've exhausted any other therapeutic alternative. Chemotherapy, radiation, surgery is not going to help. The only help at that point is a bone marrow transplant.
So it really is the gift of life for an individual.
It is, and there are thousands of people today that are helped, but many, many more thousands that could be helped if we just had enough people on the registry.
What's keeping people from registering? Do you think there are a lot of misconceptions about the whole process?
Well, I think number one is awareness, helping people understand that indeed the registry exists and that they can join the registry through a very simple process. But then ultimately there is sometimes fear or misconception about the bone marrow collection process. That is really a very comfortable way to donate. People do not endanger their own lives when they join the registry. It's really a minor inconvenience to become a bone marrow donor.
They think it's really painful, for example?
They do. And today, in fact, we rarely, if ever, collect the bone marrow from an inside of a bone. Now we can collect the cells we need through a vein in your arm. We call that a blood stem cell collection, and it means that a person has to devote about a day of time to sit on a lounge chair and as we collect the cells that we need from your arm.
It's much easier today than it used to be to actually get on the registry. You can do it simply by swabbing your cheek, right?
That's right. In fact, today we have drives. In fact, we have any one particular day, we have 30 drives going on throughout the United States. And all we need is some contact information, just some general history, family history as well as health history. And then we ask you to swab the inside of your cheek, almost like scrubbing the inside of your cheek with a Q-tip. And we can get all the cells that we need to do the testing that we need to do from those few cells.
How often is a match made?
Well, every single day through our program, the National Marrow Donor Program, we facilitate 10 transplants. And so this year we'll have 3,600 people who will find that gift of life, find that perfect match.
But what about those who don't?
And those are where we appeal for more people to join our registry, and that's where the real need is. Because for every person who does get a transplant, there's at least 3 others for whom a transplant is the only possible cure, but they don't receive that transplant because there's not available donor on the registry.
I'm assuming then there are some ethnicities that are pretty well taken care of, for example, Caucasians, correct?
Caucasians have an 82% chance of finding a match within the NMDP registry.
But what about minorities, Hispanics, African Americans, and a whole host of other ethnic groups?
Much more challenging. As an example, the group that we have the hardest and most difficult time finding a match for is African Americans. Right now our match rate is only around 58%. And not all of those are able to eventually go to transplant. The number that actually go to transplant may be less than that. So the greatest need is for more African American donors. And yet we have 500,000 African Americans on the registry. So the appeal is out and African Americans are responding. But as a race, as a group, they are more complex genetically than any of the other races.
Why is that?
Well, there's a couple of different reasons. First of all, humankind began in Africa, and so there was many more generations in order for the complexity to develop. And then with forced migration through slavery to the United States, to the Caribbean, to Europe, there was an intermingling and a mixing of races that added to that complexity.
When a match is made or found, what happens then?
Well, under those circumstances, once we've identified someone as a match, we immediately contact the donor, get a fresh sample of blood from them, and send it to the transplant center where the recipient is, just to absolutely make sure that indeed we have the right and the best possible match. And then we work with the doctor in the community where the donor lives, make sure they're healthy enough to donate, and make all the arrangements through the National Marrow Donor Program for that donation to occur. And once that donation occurs, we have one of our couriers, often an employee of the program or one of our hundreds of volunteers, will hand carry those blood stem cells from the donor to wherever the recipient is, anywhere in the world.